Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this useful or interesting. Okay, so last time we put some curves on the nose as far as the top view is concerned. And I said that this time we're going to do the same kind of thing, but we're going to add curvature on these curves, the left and right vertical side of the nose. And I want it to be rounded like this, because right now if I look from the left, it used to be flat, like literally flat across this line right here, but I've added curvature up here, and now it's doing a wobble. So we want to add curve to this line right here, pull it forward, and we'll get more shape. But right now, this blend is really looking like crap. I don't want to increase the quality a whole bunch because it'll slow down the model, but this blend looks really, really bad, and it's making me wonder, is this, and you might wonder as well, like, man, is this really going to clean up? So let's remember, when we switch to the rolling double blend, which I'm showing here, things will get a lot better. Like a lot better. Like a lot better. There's still a little flaw hiding in here. Bonus points if you can see it. It's somewhere in here. It's somewhere. See this little guy and this little guy? It's somewhere in here. There's a flaw. I know it. We might have to, but it's not obvious, right? So I'm pretty happy with this overall. And besides, we will use FreeCAD surface workbench, filling surface, to replace these two to eliminate the technical error. And this is actually really important. It's not an aesthetic thing. This surface, no matter how good and how okay it might look right now, has a flaw that will cause problems with further CAD operations. We must replace it to make a good CAD object. But that's not where we're at right now. Right now, we just want to do the most shaping we can do to really push this system to the limit before we do this stuff. So I actually went back and looked at the example I showed before, and I wanted to see, well, how good was I able to get it when I was doing this? Because when I was doing this, I hadn't really curved the front. And one thing I can see here is that these blends are tiny. They do have a flaw right around this area here. And I can show that flaw here. You'll be able to see it on this right here. There's a little dark pinch. If you follow the tip of the pinch highlight, you can see a little pinch right on this side. You see it? There's a little dark spot right in here, a little dark line, and you can see it right here. Okay, but that's a lot more reasonable than what we're seeing right here. So to make this more reasonable, what can we do to this so that it looks more like this in the meantime? Well, the cutting points are a clue. It looks like I'm cutting a lot. I'm blending a lot top and bottom, but I'm not cutting out as much side to side. So to make this model less painful to look at, why don't we do that? Let's say these 2 points can come back out to the sides a little bit. So I take this, and I say it's all the way up 0.4. I'm just going to bring it back down to 0.25. And then this guy here at 0.6, I'm going to take it back to 0.75. And let's see if that helps me. Yeah, that helps me a little bit. So maybe if I were to increase the resolution on this, it wouldn't look quite so crappy, right? Because like we see a really bad spot right here. But we can see that the triangles in this thing are massive. So why don't we test that real quick, just so we have a clear idea of how bad these defects are right now. Just going to go to my final surfaces, open it up, select everything. And just for a minute, we're going to set this to higher resolution. And this guy here should smooth out quite a bit. So we'll check where things are, make sure that it's kind of in line with the two previous models, and then we'll add our curves in. Hopefully it won't take much longer. That's the weird thing, that when it's pinching a lot, it's making FreeCAD work extra hard to actually create the surface. Okay, so here we are. This surface is now nice and smooth, and overall these blends are nice, but man, yeah, they really do pinch. They pinch a lot. This is a serious flaw. Okay, so we can work with this. This is giving us an idea of what's going on overall. And even though I've pulled these blends back quite a bit, I no longer see a completely flat part in the tip. So I think what we did last time worked. It worked in this direction. Now let's do it in the other direction. Let's see, I still have everything selected. Yep. Reduce the quality again, so we can edit at a reasonable pace. I remember I said in the last session, we're able to finagle one silk pose in the right orientation to draw a curve, and then we're able to copy it over to the other side. This time we won't be able to do that because the curves that we're editing on both sides, their starts and ends are not parallel in any way. Actually, I'm going to try to see if I can leave this on 1 degree. I don't think it makes much difference. If it takes too long to edit, I will reduce that as well. Okay. So let's see. We don't need to look at this. We don't need to look at that, except maybe to give us courage that this is worth going through. Because at least on this nose, I was able to get this kind of result with no pinch, no visible pinch. And so even though we have now created a slightly different board, it's because this board is way stouter than the other one. This one was still really, really thin and more egg shape. This one is, I think, a better surfboard because it's longer. The wide part is much bigger. Okay. Close this guy. And let's get to it. Let's see, so we left things kind of in a mess last time. We created more poses, more sketches, more planar control polygons, and more mixed curve. And we're going to keep doing more of that. So this is where the previous work was before we created the 3D curves. So we're just going to keep dumping all the new stuff into these folders, specifically silk poses, into the poses, sketches, into the sketches. These control poly 3Ls are plain polygons. And these two are combined 3D polys. Come on. I want to turn on everything, turn off everything. Okay. Now I want to see, make sure I have everything in the right folders. Just the poses. That looks right, including the new ones we created at the nose. Just the sketches, that looks right. And I see my new ones at the nose. Just the plain polygons, yep. And the combined 3D polys. Okay, so we can see that we're missing 2 combined 3D polygons. One that goes from here to here, and one that goes from here to here. Let's make them. Go back in here. Turn on my layouts. I want to work on this layout. I don't need to look at this. I want to work on this layout, and so I want to create planes that stick straight out. We just did these 2, this one, and this one, and now I want to create 2 more right here that curve forward. Okay. Turn off these guys. So now, let's say arbitrarily, I'm going to decide that I want to look at this kind of from the left side. And so really when I'm editing the planes, I kind of want to be in a plane like this. Actually, I want to be exactly in a plane like this. Right, and I'll be able to switch from this view to the left side view to see what's happening. So what that means is I want this to be the origin and I want this to be the X. So basically I have no choice but to pick this as the origin, pick this as the X, and pick this as the Y. Because these two lines are not at 90 degrees, I can't play tricks and select this one first and then this one. That would give me the wrong alignment. I need a line that goes straight to here. So I have to create this line. And when I'm in this line, I look, this is the X, this is the Y. I really wish I had a YZ. But right now, all I can get is a ZX. So I'm going to accept this as an intermediate step, and I will say, okay, well, what if this was my origin, and what if this was my X, and what if this was my Y? And just like that, I've created the coordinate system that is actually the coordinate system I want. I had to use an in-between that had the x-axis pointing up and the z-axis pointing this way. And then I created the one I want. I'm going to do that again over here. So I have both of these done together. This is going to be my origin, this is going to be the X, and I have no choice but to pick this or this for the Y, and it'll produce the same result. So here I am. And then I do the same thing with this guy. I say, well, it's pointing wherever it's pointing, I have to work with ZX. And so ZX is pointing the wrong way. But what I can do here is I can say, well, at least I can flip this axis back up. So if I flip the Y, at least I've got it pointed back up. And now I do the same thing I did here. I say, well, actually, I want this at the origin. I want this as the X. And I want this as the Y. And I create a secondary. Now I hide this, the first one I created, and now I have my two coordinate systems. So yeah, I really need to create an XZ option in the drop down, and I'm sorry I haven't done that yet, but there's actually so many options that could be in here when you take into account all the things you could flip, that honestly, this could be worse. As bad as it is, it could be way worse. For example, you could be trying to position a sketch by directly figuring out its position, not too hard to move it to an origin, but then good luck actually finding the correct axis to rotate it around. So, okay, let's just do it. This guy, sketch, objects XY. See, I'm in this plane, so now I'm looking at if I turn on the view sets, and I push myself to the left view, you can see that I'm working right here. I'm working in a coordinate system like this. Just put myself back in the actual coordinate system, hide the view sets. Let's get cracking. I'm here. I want this point. I didn't get it. Give me this point. Yes, this time I got it. Turn off all the layouts. What else do I need? I need this control sketch, and I need the middle line as a reference. Okay, I have that. Turn all these sketches back off. I'm actually going to hide this other pose right here. I'm going to work all that. 3 vague lines. Remember, I actually intentionally leave the heights different so I can check later if the 2 polys are actually going in the right or in the same direction. And if they're not, I'll just reverse the new one. Line construction, here, 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 here. I selected single line on purpose, by the way, so I don't have to start and stop the command. Snap, snap, snap. What I'm doing here is I'm box selecting the 2 endpoints, and then I hit the C key to constrain. Coincident. Parallel, parallel, because I'm paranoid and I refuse to use vertical and horizontal. And that's good enough. I'm going to... I could look at the control sketches. That's not what I want. I want to look at the original control polygons that are in the plane of the layout. Okay, I have them showing. Now I take this new sketch, I create a new polygon for it, and I hide the sketch. I select this guy, I select this guy as the base sketch that controls X and Y, and then I control select this guy as the sketch that will only control the Z height. Now, when I apply this to create the composed polygon, I'm going to look to see if this middle section is in the same orientation. If it comes out backwards and it makes an X, that means I need to reverse the orientation of this curve. And it is reversed. So here's what I do. This guy, whatever direction it's going in, is conflicting with the second one, and I say that the first one is not going to be touched because it already has a bunch of stuff that depends on it. So I take the new one, the new control polygon. I don't want to redraw the sketch just to make the line start from the right side. I take the new control polygon, not the composed one, the new planar one that only controls the Z, and I'm going to set reverse to true. And now its geometry doesn't change, but because it's in the right order, it passes the Z value to the composed curve in the right order. And I'm done on this side. Turn on this guy. Yep, that's the one I want. Turn off all these control polygons for now. Might as well turn off this. What I want right now is these control sketches. And actually, before I do the control sketches, I want the layout. Because this point I'm going to take from the layout, not the sketch. Okay. I can turn off this as well. This guy. Select it in the tree. See, if I select it from the circle right here, it's going to try to do a weird attachment. So I have to select it right here. Then I can click sketch. The default is object XY. That's what I want. Transfer. Just this point. No, I didn't want the whole line. I do not want the whole line. I want just a point. Oh, come on. Please let me have just a point. Yes, that's what I wanted. Now I can hide the layout. I see I have just a point. I turn on the control sketches, and I'm going to bring in this middle curve, this middle line right here. Okay. I don't know why it didn't work on the first click, but it worked on the second click. Thank you, FreeCAD. Multi-line, turn off construction. 3 points, not horizontal in the center. Snap. Snap the other side to the origin. Line tool, construction, line, line. Box select, coincident, box select, coincident, box select. Oop, I actually caught the third one here. Box select, coincident. Whenever I box select, of course, I'm making sure that I'm only going to end up with 2 points in what I selected. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Or it makes too many things coincident, so be careful. And this looks good. I have an uneven line in the middle, and this will tell me if my stuff is reversed or not. So, create a polygon, and go ahead and hide the sketch. Turn on all the original control polygons. So like this polygon right here, which is in the plane of the layout, as the driver of the XY, and then control select this guy as the driver of the Z. If I get an X here, that means I need to reverse. I did not get an X here. I do not need to reverse. Okay, hide all the original control polygons. And let's see. I don't need to see. I only want to look at the composed polygons now. So here's the 2 control polygons, and now I'm going to edit my sketches to make them flat. And I'm also going to basically sculpt these 2 to make them align to these lines right here. So now I can look at this from the left plane. These are the ones that are giving the curve from the top view. I don't need to look at these. This is also one that's giving curve from the top view. I don't need to look at that. I'm going to edit this sketch and force myself back into left view. Come on. Let me grab this line, Now I'm going to make it parallel to this, and now I'm going to drag it down so that I don't break rule 0. I cannot have this line be completely aligned to this guy or this guy, and I don't want it to be sticking out so far that it actually creates an inside corner here. See, when I'm going from section to section, I can have an inside corner along one curve, but I can't have an inside corner for this face. Because this is all one polygon, it can do whatever it wants, but between this last line of this polygon and the first line of this polygon, I must create an outside corner. Okay. And besides, I don't need to go that far. I don't need to go crazy. Let's turn on the view sets in here, so we have an idea what we're working against. Yeah, see, this was almost completely flat. This used to be completely flat, and it created this face right here. I might come back and do less of it, but for now I'm going to say, what if I try to put this much? I do a dimension, so this line, which is 1 point right. Why is it not letting, it's not letting me pick the point. Maybe I should just hide these polygons and just look at this guy by itself. Do this guy, and now will it let me select this point? Yes, thank you. And then it lost my selection instead of starting the dimension. That is not fun. Okay, so now I've got the point. Oof, it is really not happy. I'm going to I'm going to box select this and this guy, create a dimension, and call this 10. Ugh, I didn't create a negative value. You know, it's because I have this construction line here. Because I have this construction line here. Wow, what is it doing? Ugh. Select this point, select this line, D4 dimension. Oh, this time it worked. I have no idea what was happening the other times. But I think perhaps it's conflicting and it thinks I'm trying to dimension the construction line. I don't know. This time it gave it to me. I'm just going to take it and run. So 10 millimeters is the dimension I'm putting on here to start with. And let's remember that because we'll want to use the same dimension on the other side. Okay. So now I can look at my composed polygon again. And basically, this curve is now going to jump out this way a little bit by this much. It's hard to see right now. It'll be easier to see when I turn everything back on, but I don't want to right now. I just want to edit this guy. And here I'm not going to think too hard about it. This parallel to this. I just need to get lucky when I try to create this dimension. Type D, and I got lucky. Just make it 10, and we're done. Later we can come back and tweak this a little bit. So. And let's turn back on this composed polygon right here. So here is an and I'm going to turn back on these two. So now you get an idea of what I'm doing, what these control polygons are doing. I'm going to swap these two in to the grid of the front face, and this whole thing will puff up quite a bit. Now these 4 control polygons that are 1, 2, 3, 4 have some pretty wild angles between them, but they're not breaking the rule. These 2 lines form a clear, sharp corner. These 2 lines here form a clear, sharp outer corner. These 2 lines here form a clear, sharp outer corner. And when I say it's an outer corner, it's because if I can put myself in the middle of the face and I look at this corner, it points to the outside. If I put myself in the middle of the face and I look at this corner, it points to the outside. That's what I mean by an outside corner. Now we are ready to swap. I'm going to swap and then I'm going to sort. So I don't need the view sets at all. I want the primary curves and surfaces. So I've already swapped these guys in, right? We did all these curves together. Then last time I did just this top and bottom on the nose here. Now I'm going to do these. So in this curve, in this face, and in this face, I'm going to swap out this control polygon. It is Control poly 036. Remember the number 036 because we'll need to know it when we edit the grids. The only easy place to look it up is when looking at the curve. When we swap it out of the curve, we don't have a reference anymore, and it would really suck. 036 is what I need to remember. I swap it out for this guy. Is it working? Is it thinking about it? Oh, yep, it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. So the fact that it's taking so long to think about it just to update a curve tells me that these final surfaces still have a resolution that's way too high. And that's what's slowing everything down. I can't work like this. Grab all of these. Unselect the folders. Go here, and this needs to go back up to 28. Because that delay just now was unacceptable. Okay. I sure hope I didn't forget what polygon number this is supposed to be. I go to my primary setup, turn on my grids, look in data, it's 036. 036 is the one I want to change. And it's not that hard to figure out for this one because it already has different types of polygons here. So if I try to put it on 036 and it doesn't work, well, then it was 034. But it's 036. Then I'm going to replace it with this guy. Ooh, look at how much curve this got. By pushing the grid to here, I'm getting a lot of curvature here. Just remember, this is not the flow grid. The flow grid is going to smooth things out a little bit. Okay, so I did this one. Now I want to do this one, but this grid is going to be in my way to pick the polygon. So I select this guy. It's 036. So obviously swapping out these things is a huge pain in the butt. And if we had known exactly what we were going to do right at the beginning, we wouldn't be swapping anything. We would have built the actual polygons we want to use, and then we would have used them to make the surface. Okay, we did this one. Now we're ready to do the other side. So what are we going to be swapping? We use the curve as a reference. It's 034. The last polygon to switch out is 034. Let's do it. Replace it in the curve of this guy. Now this should update fast. Click outside the window. Yep, it jumps fast. Okay, I have this grid visible. I'm just going to do it right away. 034. Replace right here. Okay. It updated. And last time I was very confused because I hid it and then I showed it. So what I need to do is I need to show them all so that this one is visible, and then I can hide this one so that this poly is visible. And in this guy, I want to swap 034. And that's it. And we shouldn't have any errors. Because the base polygon we used for the XY values was already a part of the surface, all the surfaces were already going in the right direction. By reversing the second poly to match the first poly, we've already made everything match orientation. So you see now we have a lot of, this is really bulbous. We have a lot of curve on this tip. I'm not going to look at the final surfaces yet. But I've made this tip really bulbous. You see what I'm going? Now I have curvature in both directions. I look at it from the top, sure enough. I have forward curve here and forward curve here. Remember, before we did all this swapping, this actually had a tiny backwards curve because the layout is tilted that way. And this guy here had a tiny forward curve because of the same tilt, but really they were flat. Now I have real curvature, and not just in the top, but also in the front. I'm going to hide all these polygon here, all this business. And now we've done some serious talking about these control grids and these control polygons and the things they can't and they can't do and the problems you get into. So now we can look at them with a critical eye. This one at the top has seriously puffed up. See, by adding the curve in this direction, it's pushing this line up. By adding the curve in this direction, it's pushing this line up. And these two lines combine in a parallelogram to really push out this point in the front here. And that's what's happening at all four corners. The first leg of each polygon around the perimeter is combining in a parallelogram to really shove the tip far outward. But these surfaces are not actually directly based on these control grids. They are based on the flow grids. And whereas the primary grids are really, really, really sharp, and they have these parallelograms everywhere, which means they also create these large gaps in the middle, and it's not very pretty. The flow grid really smooths all that out a lot. If you look at, and they're still fighting on top of each other, but if you look at one of them at a time, it really smooths things out. Like the equivalent of this grid before it was flowed is this guy. You see parallelograms in all the corners. Here it's fine. The three sections of the grid side by side look fine, but then look what happens up here when you create a parallelogram. Remember, this is why I was fighting to not have these guys be completely aligned. The little bit of angle I've left in here means that I'm following rule 0, but look at the aspect ratio on this thing. This tiny little strip is one section, this middle is one section, and this little tiny little strip is another section. And this distortion is why I apply the flow grid. And the flow grid just spreads the love around. But sometimes the flow grid is inappropriate. Sometimes you really need the other one. But if I hadn't kept some angle between these two lines, the flow grid could not save me. Right here, this is rule 0. It's this and this. You cannot align these. You cannot pretend that this is just one curve. This is a surface. It's a quad surface. It must have an actual corner. Okay, I gotta say, I am pretty happy with my primary surfaces. I'm supposed to like these curves and surfaces. I'm not supposed to go ugh when I look at them. And they're at rough resolution right now. But I'm pretty happy. I'm okay with leaving the back flat. But I've massaged these so that the overall flow of the curve is good. I never concern myself with actually trying to align things across a seam. I just work on the overall. And if I do that, the blends will do the rest. I still have my flaw in here. I still need to do the other modeling. But look at my tip. Look at it. Look at the tip of my surfboard. Did you look? Do you like it? I like it I like the basic shape. So I'm not going to crank up the resolution on this because this flaw here is still going to make it pretty bad. But I have now pretty much used every single trick in the book as far as creating the primary curves and the primary surfaces and juicing the maximum value you can possibly get out of 4-point polygons. Sometimes, to get the most value out of a 4-point polygon, I create 2 4-point polygons, but then I boil them down into just one. And I create this surface with only a 4x4 grid. And that keeps the complexity low, and that makes pretty good quality surfaces. Okay. So what's next? What's next is no more preview blends. What's next is we need to refine the way we chop up this curve to create more sections and do what I consider to be a high quality blend. See, now I don't, honestly, right now, I don't care too much about the preview blends. I don't need to look at the blended model to be happy. I can just set high precision on my primary surfaces. And I'm not even ashamed of that. I think this is already pretty good because I know I can blend those small hard edges in between these surfaces. And I like these surfaces enough that I'm happy to look at this even without the blends. I see what it's going to do. All these hard edges are going to go away. And all that's going to be kept is the goodness that is at the center of each of these surfaces and at the center of each of these curves. All right, the next step, the rolling blend is going to be a bit of work. Worth doing, but it's going to be a bit of work. So I hope you enjoy seeing what is possible with just a cubic Bezier curve if you have some structure to it and you follow the rules of NURBS. Catch you next time.